Hello, hello, and welcome to another ohmTown Daily, Season 2, Episode 272 for September 29th, 2023. Tonight, we're going to discuss Intel overclocking development, Fallout Shelter Meets Skyrim, but only on Android right now, Cantaloupes, canSalmonella, every single Onewheel recalled. Wait, Autoworkers are striking? A government shutdown hurts everyone. Were any tombs actually untampered with? And it's just a 60 light year drive to the nearest gas station. Will Toys R Us return to the 1970s? And it's almost a Seinfeld episode next on ohmTown Daily. Oh, today has nothing but the whole day has been government shutdown. So I'm not going to mention it other than halfway through the article or the show, there is an article about government shutdowns and what it's going to end up doing. But I'm going to just skim over it really fast just to, pique some curiosity as to the scope of what a government shutdown actually does. Some light reading for everybody. And mention it here just to, if y'all aren't interested in this, then skip around from about 40 minutes into the show. Just before that and after the 5 to 10 minutes in there, you'll be fine. And the show's going to run probably an hour and 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, depending on how much soapboxing I do. There doesn't seem to be much soapboxing. At least
where there's a will.
Now that I said something, I'm really sorry. Okay, that's loud. But not. I don't know. Anyway, let's get into it. What say ye, oh great one?
I say let's go.
Okay, so I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com. And up there, the little blue ring is the one, the only sentient AI that keeps an eye, different eye, on the mayor of ohmTown. Go say hi.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
Okay, I was expecting more. Okay. Hey, so iPhone 15 dropped, and I ordered upgrades from iPhone 12 to iPhone 15, which is basically 4 versions of a gap, right? It sounds like 3, but there's actually, I think, interstitial updates beyond the, hard numbers. Dun, dun, dun. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly how many, but so the reason why I did it is entirely because I wanted USB-C. Get all of the devices onto USB-C. Everything is awesome, right? Sounds about right. And so I have one of their cables here, and it's braided. It doesn't have that little like sticky, rubbery feeling, whatever. I don't know. I like it. I guess we'll see if it stands the test of time, because the older ones always frayed and broke and whatever. But the only reason why I'm even bringing it up, 2 of them were upgraded, right? One I actually upgraded. The other one is in limbo somewhere. Nobody knows where it is, but they were ordered within 5 minutes of each other.
It doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah. So it's estimated that that delivery is going to be somewhere around the 4th of October.
Well, that's not that far around the corner.
Well, no, but this one showed up earlier, and it was scheduled for October 4th as well. And unfortunately, I have to be somewhere October 4th. So, not too happy with that. But that's okay. If that's the biggest issue, I'm okay with it.
Exactly.
So, like always, we already load up everything that we're going to be talking about. But remember, you have main categories over at ohmTown.com, 50 sub channels where all the news, about 200 sources at times. I've been pulling stuff and adding stuff, but I put a bunch of information into this so that every time you go there, it's going to be something new and interesting, but you're not going to get all of the noise. There's a lot of fluff in some social media sites where people are posting information and it's on the front page. And while that might come across as great community building, I'm looking to aggregate news into something that is not going to overload me with information. So that's why I created ohmTown. So come on over, hang out, check it out, become a citizen. Once you sign in, you can actually do additional things, not just the elections, because anybody can do those, but you can actually catalog these things. You can hide them or save them depending on your mood, and you can always adjust that in a later date. And it's always cataloged by the day.
Right, but once you adjust it, you can't put it back on the main page, correct?
Yep. That way you don't ever have to worry about rereading the news again and again. Oh, wait, I've read that one before. Oh, I read that one before. It always ends up in 2 personal lists. And additionally, when you go into an article, and we'll do that right now here, I'll even show you. So we're going to do the very first article now. So this first article is over in Warcrafters. It's one of the categories, the channels, which I want to bring to ohmTown, over and from ohmTown, I should say, over to Twitch and turn it into a podcast as well. So if you're interested in talking about first-person shooters, real-time sims, RPGs, gaming in general, and even streamcasts, netcasts from others that are talking about it, even live plays, Warcrafters is a channel. That's a name that could change in the future, just like Technology Today changed. But, you know, it is what it is. Right now, I call it Warcrafters because it's all about kind of world building and talking about the world building. In the gaming sense, there's another writing channel that's called Aerith, that is like a storybook world for writers. And then there's another one called Breaking Prose, which is actually about learning how to be a writer. At any rate, in the Warcrafters channel, once you become a citizen and you log in, you can actually save this to your own private list. And that's kind of like a favorite, and you can actually send it to other people so that they can see what you see and favorite. It's pretty cool. And that's separate from our categorization option here in podcasts and elections. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do. All right. Well, anyway, this first article in Warcrafters is actually more about Intel, and I'll skim over it because there's quite a bit to it. But Intel begins high volume production of Intel 4 node chips this week, which basically it's one of their 5 pillars, or nodes is what they're actually working on. And they're trying to do 5 nodes in 4 years. And the article's we only grab a snippet of the article, not the entire article. It's provided by the news source, by the way. Intel is set to begin high volume manufacturing of its Intel Node 4 or 4 node, Intel 4 node, with bleeding edge extreme ultraviolet lithography. Whoa. Oh, that's not the Halloween article that I'm. Yeah. Anyway, in Ireland from Friday, the 29th of September, it will host a ceremony at its Fab 34 facility near, oh man, is it pronounced something like Leichlip? It's probably something like that.
I do not know. You didn't load my Irish language module.
Sorry about that. I'll work on that next weekend, or this weekend. And so it's in Ireland. They even give like the time, 12:45 p.m. Irish Standard Time. For crying out loud, I don't know what they're expecting, a UFO to land. Hey, congratulations on working on your new chips. Seems weird to me. Anyway, Though it's not the first facility to begin Intel 4 production, it's already underway in its D1 fab in Oregon. It is the first in Europe, and the wafers and dies it produces will end up becoming Meteor Lake processors. So what Intel wants to do, I'm sorry for the cough, is, the deck statement for this article is the second step in Intel's 5 nodes in 4 years roadmap is all systems go. Basically, that this Intel 4 node chips second step is ramping up production for that particular chip. The article is over at pcgamer.com, and Chris Seswick is the author. So these Meteor Lake processors are the next generation processors. They contain power cores and efficiency cores, just like every modern processor does nowadays. Let me throw it into chat before I get too far along. See, there's many parts to this omelet that I'm cracking eggs for. So Intel 4, it says here in the article, is a big deal. Intel has projected that it will allow a greater than 20% increase in clock speed within the same power budget over Intel 7. That's a key figure for laptop use cases. Higher performance is great. Battery life is all important too. They're saying that it'll achieve higher yields with more dies per wafer. That'll lower cost. Arguably, depends on if people scoop them all up because they see that as a major innovation and can kind of do arbitrage sales where they buy up a whole bunch and then they sell them achingly slow to keep the costs high. Did you have a question?
Will this be like straight to consumer or for business?
Yes. Both. Yeah. But the next step is actually ramping it up for servers. And then there is the Intel 18A and Intel 20A. Those are the next step is what is it called? Intel 3, which is the enhanced version of 4, and then Intel 18A and Intel 20A. And each of those are successively smaller processes and ramping up power efficiencies and stepping towards quantum computing, with the hopes of 20A on the other side of 20A being a quantum computer. And that 18A is actually 1.8 nanometers, whereas some competitors are at that point. Intel apparently hasn't reached that point yet. There are some that are down at the 3 and really close, I think, to 1.8, if I recall correctly. But I know, a little bit about a lot of stuff, and I don't go really deep into any one thing and kind of get pigeonholed. But all I really want is everybody fighting for my dollars and capabilities. I want everybody fighting for me as a customer. And considering I have to buy a new CPU because one of my CPUs on one of my servers has imploded for whatever reason, I want the prices to drop. So it says here, the author is disappointed not to see Meteor Lake desktops, because that's what these are. These are not desktops at this point. By that, they mean proper LGA 1851 enthusiast class products. Intel has clarified that we'll see NUC, all-in-one, and embedded desktop solutions, but a full top-to-bottom desktop where you can just go buy them, overclock them, etc. isn't going to be possible. A 6 gigahertz plus compute tile with next generation power and efficiency cores would have been very exciting for gamers, and I agree. But I think that at 6 gigahertz, the heat generated by this might exceed current generation water cooling systems. Again, don't hold me to that. I mean, I've done everything from liquid nitrogen cooling to oil immersion and whatnot, but nothing ever, I never approached 6 gigahertz, but it was possible in the past. The article at the end says the impressions that the author got after talking to Intel representatives with the company is feeling very bullish. Intel is spending billions to build up its manufacturing capability, including expanding its US-based manufacturing. Well, that's largely because the federal government threw a metric ton of money at companies, large companies, mind you, not small companies, just mega corporations that the government felt was capable of fulfilling the obligations of innovation and mass production and bringing something to market with greater success. But we've seen stuff expand and then it go nowhere. So hopefully this will actually migrate over to lowering the cost for everybody.
I mean, that's a win if it actually comes through.
Yep. It'll be fun to see newer chips, and I'm all about AMD and Intel fighting it out. AMD is fighting for AI, and they're dominating that market, and they've basically told their retail consumer side to, take a walk. But Intel is still interested in keeping its retail customers as well as expanding its corporate and industrial computing. So let's keep on going. Sound good?
That sounds good.
The next article is Bethesda just released a new Elder Scrolls mobile game that's basically Fallout Shelter meets Skyrim. This is in the Warcrafters channel as well. Fallout Shelter was announced on June 4th, 2015. I actually downloaded it. My understanding is it was actually removed, but maybe it came back. I did download it, so again, after removing it. So maybe it's back. But the reason why I looked at Fallout Shelter was because I was curious if the Elder Scrolls Castles was available. And the only bummer really about this is it's not on iOS. It's only on Android and only in the United States. So, I mean, if you're a citizen of ohmTown and in the United States, you could probably get it still. But if you're an ohmTown citizen and in Europe or elsewhere, you're not going to be able to get it even on Android. I'm hoping that they bring it to iOS, to Apple. But it says here, remember when Fallout Shelter was first announced in June 4th, 2015, followed by the news that you could play it right there and then? That's the sort of thing that happened today without any announcement. Bethesda just plopped out a game that basically is Fallout Shelter set in Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls Castles. So when I heard the Elder Scrolls Castles, I immediately thought of a game that I play almost every day in the morning and every day at night, called Cookie Run Kingdoms. And I hope that that's what it is.
That sounds like a very tough game, very aggressive.
Yeah, it's really high stress, frenetic, constantly playing, because otherwise you lose ground. That's not really how it is. But it's a mobile game, currently only available for Android and apparently only in the United States at the moment. I'm sure it'll ramp up and over to the US and over to iOS at some point. I hope. So it says, weirdly, as far as the author can tell, Bethesda hasn't actually announced the game. That, coupled with the fact that Elder Scrolls Castle doesn't even appear anywhere. The article continues on, but let me scroll over to it. And Christopher Livingston is the author. It's over at PCGamer.com. If this is the artwork, which it seems to be, I'm puzzled.
Why is that?
It doesn't look like a game at this point. It looks like a scene, like it's a simulator, more like The Sims. But maybe this is just one element of it. And I'll have to wait until it actually comes over to iOS. I guess I could download it on an Android device, but I don't really do that. I use Android devices for something else. Anyway, let's see here. They say maybe the game wasn't actually supposed to be published.
Not really out there. Maybe it's just like a
oops
trailer or whatever for it.
This is not the game. Okay, so it says they don't have an Android device, so they can't play it themselves. They're just looking at stuff. I'm not going to download it for my Android devices. Anyway, it says train your subjects, name heirs, maintain order to help your kingdom flourish, reads the game store page. You will keep your subjects happy and ensure a long life for their ruler, or will they grow discontent and plot assassination? So it's kind of like the game on Steam called Kingdom. Wait, what's it called? Yes, My King, or something like that. Hold on a second. It's a game where you basically For the King. That's what it's called. For the King. It sounds like it's kind of like that. But also a castle builder, because you have floors which seem like you're going to have to build out. So very much like Fallout Shelter. And other games that are kind of like that. There's several out there that are like that, like tower builder games. So this might be fun. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow it'll actually show up. I don't know. It looks pretty neat. But this initial picture doesn't look like that down there. One is marketing, I think, and one is gameplay. That's for sure. Pretty cool. Okay, you want to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, next article. It's over in ohmTown Daily. Thousands of cantaloupes recalled over salmonella. So, cantaloupes, canSalmonella. I don't know why I felt compelled to name this segment that, but there you go.
It works. I thought that was the best title for this episode.
The FDA is warning that 6,456 cases of cantaloupe are being recalled due to potential for salmonella. This is over at abcnews.go.com, or just ABC News, I guess, if you do a search for it. It doesn't say who the byline is other than ABC News. The deck statement is the fruit was sold in 19 states. Okay. This is yet another reason for people to promote local production of their food supply. Why? Because if you go and get your cantaloupes from a regional supplier, and you basically go back to the old world style like Europe used to have, particularly the UK, where everybody had little enclaves of towns. There was a pub in every place. It was the public location to hang out and talk about what's going on, politically and whatnot. But you would meet people there. You would share stories. You would find out who's selling the best cantaloupe. And if there was an outbreak in the 21st century, you would have immediate responses at a smaller level. And it wouldn't be 19 states being impacted by one supplier.
Exactly. It'd be like maybe a town.
Right. Maybe. One person would get sick, and that person could sit there and, not the person, but the doctor could suss out what the problem is and stop it right then and there. But we're talking about one supplier feeding 6,456 cases of cantaloupe into the supply chain across 19 states. Eagle Produce LLC from Scottsdale, Arizona, initiated the voluntary recall. Well, thank you very much. Following a test conducted on cantaloupe in a distribution center by the FDA. By the way, salmonella is one of those things like E. coli where you get it from the whatchamacallit, like fertilizer. Specifically, the recalled cantaloupes are candy produce whole cantaloupes with the UPC code 4050, and lot codes are listed here in the stream. I guess that's a barcode. But anyway, The recalled cantaloupes.
If you got a cantaloupe recently in a lot of states, you might want to be thinking about whether you want to eat it.
Yeah. Here, let me throw this into the chat so that you can follow it. There's quite a few. So it says recalled cantaloupes were distributed between September 5th and September 16th. So right around the corner here. But the illness didn't manifest fast enough for them to be recalled any sooner. So people had to eat them, then 3 to 7 days get sick. The recalled cantaloupes were distributed between September 5th and September 16th in California, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Washington, D.C., according to the FDA. So I basically listed half of the United States.
Exactly. Like I said, if you've eaten or if you bought a cantaloupe recently, you might want to check it.
Yeah, be concerned. Okay, let's keep going because there isn't much more. I can only be a proponent for so many things. In this case, I'm a proponent for small scale regional farms that supply to the local community and having a plurality of them and a pub in every location. It doesn't have to be one, but believe me, people will gravitate towards the ones that are popular and provide a service to the community. But you have the old world sensibility, but then the modern world technology and interconnectedness where everybody is sharing it. And I hate to say it this way, but I really am speaking to the positive aspects of silo, where the community is tight knit and everybody knows each other. We're all working towards basically a better world for ourselves and everyone around us. Yet there's another town right next door, and instead of having conflict, right? Maybe good natured, but for whatever reason, everybody's like the vitriol that people brew up just watching a football game or a baseball game. It's almost palpable, you know? I mean, when you go and see it, people are actually angry. But that's not what we need. What we need are people working together and making the world around them a better place. This is power and influence concentrated in one company that, because of a mistake, could be poisoning thousands upon thousands of people. The potential is there, and that's what I don't like. You know, you're not going to get 6,456 cases of cantaloupe that are potentially contaminated with salmonella if it is a local community farm. Just saying. All right, let's keep going. Said I wasn't going to soapbox much. Well, here's another one for you. Second PSA, because I don't think I had one yesterday, so I'm making up for it. This next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Every single Onewheel is being recalled after 4 deaths. Not accidents.
I don't even know what a Onewheel is.
It's basically a fat-wheeled skateboard with one wheel in the center between your legs. I think it's a recipe for disaster. Other people.
Apparently it is.
Well, at least for 4 people. And I don't know how many other people have been injured, but let's go over to the actual source. There you go. That's your Onewheel.
I've seen pictures of that, but I didn't know that was called that.
Yeah. So it's like typical that it isn't shielded, this wheel. There's nothing over it. I think this is the original from way back. But I think now they have, just to get past certain regulators, this is covered, I think. But let's see. The article's over at The Verge, so you can go over there. You can follow the link through ohmTown. But Umar Shakir is the author. The deck statement says the Consumer Product Safety Commission and Future Motion are recalling 300,000 Onewheel self-balancing skateboards over 4 reported crashes where riders died. The company challenged previous warnings. let's go through this real quick. The recall comes 1 year after Future Motion took issue with CPSC's calls for recall and claimed that it tested and found nothing wrong with Onewheels. At the time, the company issued a press release in objection to the CPSC and called the agency's statements unjustified and alarmist. Really? Now Future Motion is moving forward with a voluntary recall it chose not to do almost a year earlier. The company is asking owners to stop using their Onewheels until they take appropriate action. For the newer Onewheel GT, Pint X, Pint, Onewheel Plus XR, a software update with a new warning system is the remedy. A warning system? All right.
I'm not quite sure that's enough, but okay. Warning, you may die.
Hey, it's on cigarettes, but people still smoke, right? It's not on alcohol, but alcohol is a straight up poison. The reason why you become delirious is because, or compromised, is because it's actually poisoning your blood. So we look past it in the yearning for either adrenaline or forgetting or just having quote unquote fun. So it says some crashes occurred due to one-wheel skateboards malfunctioning after being pushed to certain limits. Right. So blame the victims. The Onewheel GT, Onewheel Pint X, Pint, and Plus XR will receive a firmware update that will add a new warning haptic buzz feedback that riders can feel and hear when the vehicle enters an error state, is low on battery, or is nearing its limits and needs to slow down.
Okay, so I am not a skateboarder, but isn't there vibration from the skateboard? So how is somebody going to necessarily detect that?
You see, humans have this innate ability to multitask, so they'll be able to discern from the road noise vibration and the haptic feedback. Maybe the noise, the actual alert will trigger somebody, but I'm sure nobody's going to ignore it and test the limits of this. There's going to be videos on YouTube in a heartbeat that basically show people exceeding the limits of these things to see if they can die, I suppose. To install the updates, owners must connect their Onewheels to the accompanying app and run a firmware update. The process is fully explained in a new video. Alongside Future Motion's blink on the decision to recall Onewheel, the company shared a new video on YouTube highlighting the new haptic buzz feature as well as best practices when riding. So I get it. I get that they're basically saying, look, if you use Onewheel for its prescribed purpose, but 4 people dying because they're riding this thing, and then saying something like, well, they're pushing it beyond its limits. Well, yeah, I suppose so. You can sit there and say that about somebody driving a car in the wrong direction too. But do you really want to blame somebody who's died because they're riding a skateboard?
Exactly. That shouldn't lead to your death.
Yeah. And I understand accidents. Like, hey, they were riding a skateboard and they weren't paying attention and they rode it into traffic or something like that. Or they rode it off a cliff or whatever. This actually has the ability to be rather off-road. I guess they haven't enclosed this. I thought that there was something that covers this now. But I haven't been, well, honestly, I haven't been paying attention to the Onewheels. But there's actually an aftermarket thing for changing the battery or something, and they got into the software. And they got into a big hoopla with another company about it. And after that, I stopped paying attention to Future Motion in general because I thought that it was just going to be a fad. But they've sold 300,000 of them at least. But it's not really a recall, right? If they're just saying, stop, we're going to do an update.
Exactly. Plus, I mean, like a lot of these other recalls, I mean, some of these happened in 2019. We're 4 years later.
Yep. So it's 4 known deaths, 3 without a helmet. So you really should be, if you're doing any action sport and you're not wearing a helmet and you aren't directly in control of your feet on the ground, you should probably be wearing a helmet, because if you don't have a traumatic brain injury because of your fall, you could lose your life. So if you're riding a
Yeah,
skateboard,
it's not really worth the risk, I don't think.
yep. If you ride a skateboard or any wheeled vehicle, better wear a helmet. Otherwise, and I'm not going to blame the victim, but I'm going to tell you that you're going to be a victim if you don't wear a helmet. Okay, enough. Let's keep going. This next article is in a segment that I call, wait, auto workers are striking?
I mean, it's hard to keep up with all the strikes going.
Yeah. So UAW says that the union is going to have 7,000 more members walk out. So U.S. car workers strike escalates as it enters third week. I did not know that. Huh.
We actually talked about this one at the beginning. Not the escalation, but that they were going on strike.
I remember that it was a potential that they had already voted that they would.
Yeah.
But I don't remember them actually announcing. So I guess I stopped paying attention to this. But this is kind of striking. UAW strike. Car workers escalate action, clouding U.S. economy. Why? Because we are a manufacturing country when it comes to cars. Like all of our cars, the predominant number of people in the U.S. are like, well, I'll either buy Japan or I'll buy U.S. It's one of those two. Oddly enough, there's a lot that's produced in like Mexico and whatever, and then assembled here in the United States. But whenever auto workers strike, all hell breaks loose economically. But I don't know if we've been feeling this. It says clouding U.S. economy. Natalie Sherman over at BBC.com put this article together, which I think is fascinating. And we got it from a BBC source.
We often get some of our best news from outside the U.S. about the U.S.
It's interesting. It's a business reporter from New York, though. So Natalie Sherman publishing it on BBC, which is fine with me. I just want the information. Roughly 18,000 workers are already on strike in a dispute that has cast doubt on the U.S. economy. U.S. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump, who is running for re-election, both visited Detroit area this week to address this issue, which comes as labor tensions simmer across the country. Look, I'll be honest. My bias is pretty high, but I wouldn't trust a Trump presidency promise to fix a broken shoelace, let alone the auto workers union issues with the automotive industry. The companies have maintained that the union's request would hurt their ability to invest in the long term. They have countered with a roughly 20% pay increase and some other concessions. On the picket line in Michigan this week, many workers said that they were ready for an extended fight. In a time where the economy is getting, I don't know, kind of like the Harry Potter treatment and stuffed under the stairs. Everything is going up in expense. The cost of goods, the cost of living, everything is going up. $7 gas in California. How is anybody ready for an extended fight? And now the government is shutting down. Potentially. There's a last-ditch effort to try and save it, but I'm guessing that it's probably going to be a month-long shutdown, but we shall see. Anyway, it says they're making billions in profit and we deserve better. Absolutely. Any company that has record profits during a time where everybody else is stagnating
or losing money because of rising costs, but flat salaries.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go on. I can't be the only one that's talking about this stuff all the time. Maybe I will be. So you're absolutely right. People are taking pay cuts just staying in their position because they're not getting raises that are covering cost of living. But the executive suite, the C-suite, the stockholders are benefiting because the MBAs have concentrated all of that power and influence and wealth at the top and for the stockholders. Meanwhile, institutionally, the companies are buying the stock with the money that they are aggregating within the company and not giving it to the employees. They're using that money to buy their stock back and concentrate again the wealth again and again and again at the top, again and again and again. So it just concentrates it like a pyramid all the way to the very top. There's like 10 people that are ultra rich. All the rest are little plebes hoping that they're going to get a little bit of benefit, the trickle down Reaganomics, which is just complete bullshit. These people are the actual life force, the engine, the heart of the industry, and they're being told that what they've got is good enough. Meanwhile, it isn't a Ford that the CEO is driving around. They're picking to the Ford because it's good optics. But what they really want is a Porsche or a Ferrari, or they're going to go to some other house where the optics aren't so bad and take their Ferrari from there out. I mean, it's just disgusting. The money needs to go back to the working class so that it can be stronger and more capable. And the taxes there, because all of the working class pay their taxes and don't have a multitude of reasons or capabilities, I should say, to exploit tax havens and other loopholes in the tax system. So the economy would actually get an infusion of taxes, and the road behind these people wouldn't look like that, which is potholes, and it looks like 10,000 lakes behind them. And it should be a perfectly paved road. And the only way that takes place is when public servants are paid to go and repave the roads. That's how it works. Why? Because companies won't do it on their own. Some type of regulator has to come in and sit there and say, you know what, you can't do this. Why? Because it harms the community, it harms the world, it hurts people, etc. But that's not what happens. Companies will sit there and exploit and exploit and exploit until unions strike or government goes into Overwatch mode and tries to correct. But you can't throw a company in jail. You can't throw a CEO in jail unless it's so wrought with fraudulent behavior.
Right, it's got to be like mega fraud or something.
Sure, and they have to be cognizant of it. They have to have made some conscious decision.
Like they were personally involved in it.
Yeah. So they're going to sit there and put 7,000 more people on the strike line. And how much this is going to change, I don't know. The latest action expands the work stoppage at a Ford factory in Chicago that makes Explorers, and the GM factory in Michigan, which makes large crossover SUVs, such as the Chevrolet Traverse and Buick Enclave. These are all the money makers because they're $75,000 cars, which really should be $40,000 cars. And everybody else's, sedan should be a $30,000 or $25,000 car. But that's not how it's panned out to be. Now you get a $25,000 discount in
when that's
bold
the
letters.
Discount, the prices are too high.
Yeah, you're out of your mind. Economic impact of the action remains limited, but is building. In just its first week, the standoff had led to an estimated $1.6 billion in economic losses, including more than $100 million in lost wages, a cost that is weighing on local economies. I think that ratio is really shocking. $100 million in lost wages, but 1.6 billion in economic losses?
Yeah, it does seem very lopsided there.
Yeah, talk about income disparity. Where did all of that economic profit go? If only 100 million was lost wages, I think record profits.
Yeah, that's a lot left over.
Right? Yeah. So I think it's complete crap. Anyway, I won't go through the entire article with you, but go and check it out and get a little bit more informed about strikes and why people strike. I know that there are a lot of people that think that they're going to win the game, but I think that some people are playing like Monopoly, and other people are playing chess, and other people are playing life, and other people are playing shoots and ladders. Take from
Some
that
people are
what you
playing
will.
Go Fish.
Yeah, well, particularly if you're on strike, I guess you get to go fish. Let's keep going. So that brings us to another strike, which apparently is our government, because of a few wingnuts controlling a large, well, not even a large portion, it's just a small portion, and holding all of America hostage. The government is going to shut down, possibly, in 2 days?
Correct.
Yep.
But the effects will be felt on Monday for most people.
Yeah, so all of this will stop. And this is just one. The title of this article is "Marriages to Stop Suddenly Stop on Sunday in One City." I don't know about suddenly. This is a known thing that's been pending, but people aren't paying attention to this.
Exactly. Like, there are going to be people that think they're getting married on Sunday that might be in for a surprise, and they're not, even if they're hearing this in the news,
They still
about a
think.
shutdown, they're not even connecting it to
Yep.
real life.
Yep. Why? Because the biggest employer in the United States is the federal government, and all of its knock-on effects are going to be felt the most Monday morning, because everything is going to be shut down. There are people that are on vacation that are at national parks, and they're going to get zero services on Monday. There are people that, VA is going to be suspended largely, except for essential services. And just so that everybody realizes this, there are essential personnel that are still going to be a skeleton crew in the government and working during this time, not for free, but suspended compensation until the government gets refunded. Not refunded, but refunded.
Right. Redash funded.
And here's the kicker. The people making the rules, they are still getting paid. And they're also paying the people with the guns, because you don't piss off the people with the guns. We still need them for national defense. Still need them for security. But all of your politicians in the federal government are still getting paid, because it's actually against the Constitution. They still get paid during a government shutdown from the reserve funds. So, and it's not on hold until it gets refunded. They actually get compensation. So take that to the bank and cash it, because you're not going to take anything else. But marriages are just one thing. So let's go over to the source of this, Newsweek.
I have to admit, though, this is the most unusual effect of a shutdown I've seen in the news.
It's an interesting take, right? Anybody who's doing a search, I suppose, for marriage is going to get this. So this is really good, kind of clickbait, but not clickbait, because it's actually speaking to it. So they have a video at this site, at the Newsweek site. So let me throw the link over through ohmTown over to, because all roads lead to ohmTown. So just imagine yourself a citizen of ohmTown. You're walking up to the news board, and you just, because everything happens electronically in ohmTown, you just tap that little headline and you instantly zip off to the source of the information so you can read it. That's how ohmTown works. They've got a video over here that tells you what else is going to happen. List of national parks, museums, buildings closed in a government shutdown, including everything having to do with marriage licensing at the federal level. So good luck. A government shutdown looks increasingly likely as the Republican-led House of Representatives can't even get its own ass in the door. Sorry, that's not what it says in the article, but they're fighting amongst themselves. And
right,
meanwhile,
in the same party.
within the same party, yeah, and only like 5 people. But the problem here is that how many total?
21 is what I last saw.
21 are complicit, but I think there's only 5 that are actually responsible for steering this. So in the event of a halt of operations, federal institutions will be forced to severely pare down operations, but for the most essential of services starting on October 1st. Fiscal year starts October 1st, ends September 31st. So one such function could be marriage. The city of Washington, D.C. said this week that its court system will face disruption and could delay the ability of couples to legally marry. Pretty wild, right? In the event of a lapse of in annual government appropriations, National Park Service sites will be closed. The Department of Interior said in a statement on Friday, visitors should expect that many of the services and facilities they depend on at national parks will be closed or largely unavailable during a shutdown. Here's the problem with all of this. All of these shutdowns, there are still essential personnel in the area. There's always going to be somebody. It's going to be severely pared down because there are people that are not essential personnel and they're told to go home. The essential personnel will be accosted by the population because they think that these people are still there, they're still getting paid, but they only have so much bandwidth, so they can't be everywhere and do everything. And so there's going to be so many people out there. I still don't know okay, I just want to say Karen, but I don't want to piss off Karens because not all Karens are Karens. Anyway, there's going to be so many people that are going to be angry with the federal government, but it's not their fault. It's a couple of wingnuts.
I was going to say it's not going to be the forward-facing person standing there at the national park entrance or whatever that has anything to do with any of it, but they're going to bear the brunt of it from the public.
Yep. So there's going to be quite a bit that's going to be pared back or shut down entirely. So if you're trying to get a new passport, nope. If you're going to try and get any federal-based licensing, nope. If you're going to try and file any paperwork with the federal anything, nope.
Trying to get a government loan, good luck.
Yeah, nope. And those government loans step down to local. They're just government-funded loans, and so even the local economy is going to be impacted by it because they cannot grant anything at any strata of government.
Right. And let's not forget one of the most significant things for the average member of the public, airport travel.
Oh, yeah, TSA is going to be severely scaled back. Again, essential personnel. There's going to be a whole bunch of people that are private sector representatives at the gate, but they're not going to be able to facilitate any of the security apparatus. And so you're going to get longer lines and people are going to be pissier. All because, again, and I'll be honest, I'm speaking to everybody who might hear this. Y'all put these wingnuts in office. So if you are one of the ones that voted for these wingnuts, you are complicit in this. And so if you are pissed off about this shutdown, guess what? Time to cast a new vote. Can't vote me out of ohmTown, though. I'm the mayor, and I'm the one that runs the show. Booyah. Okay, gotta go. Next article. This one is in ohmTown Daily. I love this kind of stuff. I say it every time I talk about this stuff. 4,400-year-old tomb found with ancient Egyptian mummy inside. It says lost, but it wasn't lost. It's refound. The burial chamber included several artifacts, including pottery, the remains of votive offerings, jars, and a mummified fish. Oh, hecklefish. An ancestor of hecklefish. Let's say that. Oh, poor hecklefish. Aristos Georgiou is the author of this over at Newsweek.com. They've got a video, but I don't. Yeah, it looks like it's on Target, which I'm surprised. It usually isn't on Target, but hey, I guess this one is. So here's the deal with this. It's a 4,400-year-old pharaonic tomb from Hatshepsut, who lived around, again, 4,400 years ago, 25th and 24th centuries BC. Archaeologists with the Czech Institute of Egyptology and Prague's Charles University said this week they located the tomb near the archaeological sites of Abusir and Saqqara in 2022 by using satellite imagery and studying old maps. The tomb was partially exposed almost 160 years ago, but it was an antechamber, a false door with a lintel, and then they dug more out and they discovered the actual tomb. The tomb disappeared under the desert sand after it was revealed. And so they found it sediment again. Yes. See, now, the desert, I understand blowing around if it takes 160 years to cover something up. Totally. But Easter Island.
True.
Okay.
A little different than just dirt.
They say that it was that the trees were all cut away and erosion just oozed down around all of these things. All right. Anyway, the false door and lintel contained information about Hatshepsut's official career, telling the story of his education at the court of Menkaure, an ancient pharaoh who was born in 2532 BC and died in 2504 BC. According to the information on the false door, Hatshepsut married the daughter of Userkaf, a pharaoh who reigned for a short period of time in the early 25th century BC. So I love all of this kind of stuff, but to me, this isn't even this picture of a mummy. I don't think is, I think it's just a stock thing. I hate it when they just pack on fluff. What's interesting about this is it actually, okay, here's how it worked. They found this false door and then they found the actual site. Excavations at the site uncovered an extensive 137-foot long, 72-foot wide superstructure of the tomb. It includes a relatively well-preserved chapel and painted decoration in the entrance and a long access corridor. It makes the official Hatshepsut even more unique because it can be credited with the idea of introducing the famous god of the Egyptian afterlife, into the Egyptian pantheon, according to a Facebook post. Given Hatshepsut's political, historical, and religious significance, the tomb is one of the most remarkable discoveries of the recent periods in ancient archaeology. So pretty spectacular in the sense that it had all of its information still intact because nobody tampered with it, except
they did rob some of the belongings, I guess.
Somebody robbed it prior to the 160-year-old initial invasion, or between now and that discovery and then loss. So there is, as far as I know, there's only one that wasn't breached, and that's King Tut's original tomb. Right? According to the reports of King Tut's tomb, it still had its seal in place. Right?
But isn't that crazy that like almost all of them have been
right?
I don't know what the word is.
Breached,
yes.
vandalized, robbed. There's a whole bunch of terms.
Thank you. There's
really.
Multiple words.
But to me, I think it's really easy to just chisel into previously constructed stonework, whatever the hell you want to. It's the equivalent of, peeing on a bush and saying it's yours, or licking a car door.
Or modern day graffiti.
Or modern day graffiti. That's probably more politically correct. So I don't know. I really want a time machine. I thought that when I found the sentient AI that's up there, that maybe in your code would be the equivalent of a time machine that I would be able to build, but that hasn't turned out to be the... I guess I should have asked, is it okay to look at your code? Is it a violation of...
I was gonna say you could search my code and see if there's any time travel modules in there.
Okay, so you've given me permission, but it's retroactive, so I just want to come clean that I've been looking at your code.
Okay.
That might be, in the future, that might actually be illegal, or at least assault, because I'm looking at your code without permission. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like looking under the hood, so to speak. Anyway, this tomb was actually partially opened sarcophagus with the complete mummy inside. So the mummy's been contaminated by whatever was in the room at the time of the sarcophagus being opened. So all of it, the whole integrity of this, just, I want to know what really happened. I want to know how they were all built. I want to know the history. That makes sense to me. And to me, I just don't, I love the idea that there's something more there, but I don't think that will ever be told, because we just don't know, and we make shit up as we go. I mean, somebody
Well,
can
and we
sit there.
don't have full access to the information
Yeah. And
like
there's a
in other
vested interest.
countries.
Yeah. And there's a vested interest in calling a tomato a red apple. You know what I'm saying? Like, they want to make it, they being people who are interested in keeping the status quo, want to keep it this way. And I'm not saying aliens. I'm just saying we don't know what the construction is. We don't know why they were actually constructed this way. And the structures are massive underneath what is already on top, and gets smaller and less capable as we become more modern. It's kind of funny what all is going on here. So always
Well,
neat.
I think there were two things that were interesting. One, there was a mummified fish with this, which I don't think I've read on any previous ones. And then secondly, it's always astounding to me how much space is in these structures compared to the actual sarcophagus, for example.
Yeah. Yep. So where it's like a huge sarcophagus and a tiny little opening, and how
Right.
the hell they get it in there? And it's 60 feet down in the dirt.
In the sand.
Yeah, in the sand. Sorry, in the sand. In the sedimentation. Oh, all right. Well, anyway, I really want a time machine. If when people ask the question, you know, like if you could go back in time or future, I would probably say I would like to go back to the creation of the Great Pyramids and all of Egypt. I would like to see the timeline of it actually being constructed and witness it. Because everything that we've ever read, it seems like, is a fish tale, right? They sit there and they say the fish was this big and it actually was this big, or it was a friend of a friend of a friend who said this. Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep on going. The next article is over in the mobile channel. And the reason why I framed all of this is because of that. I'm not saying aliens, but we should find extraterrestrial life within 60 light years if Earth is average, according to a professor. This segment is 60 light year drive to nearest gas station. In 1960, while preparing for the first meeting on the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, or SETI, the legendary astronomer and SETI pioneer Dr. Frank Drake unveiled his probabilistic equation for estimating the number of possible civilizations in our galaxy, aka the Drake equation. A key parameter of this equation was NE, the number of planets in our galaxy capable of supporting life, aka habitable. At the time, astronomers were not yet certain other stars had systems of planets, but thanks to missions like Kepler, 5,523 exoplanets have been confirmed and another 9,867 await confirmation. Pretty damn amazing. And it's only in the areas that we are looking, which is something like 1% of the sky.
Exactly. I remember there's a YouTube video about that. Like
Yeah.
you're looking at the galaxy, and that's only a tiny percentage of this, and then that's only a tiny percentage, and it just keeps going out
And
further.
and it goes, we just see arc seconds, right? We just see these little slivers. So I find it really fascinating. I love stuff like this. Because of what I do, I can't dig this deep in every topic that I stumble across. But if I could promote people to follow this kind of stuff, I would definitely encourage people. I'm a cheerleader for fundamental science research and development. Matt Williams over at Universe Today put this article together. It's at phys.org. Based on this data, the astronomers have produced various estimates for the number of habitable planets in our galaxy, at least 100 billion, according to one estimate. In a recent study posted on an archived preprint server, Professor Piero Mado introduced a mathematical formula for calculating the population of habitable planets within 100 parsecs, or 326 light years, of our sun. Assuming Earth and the solar system are representative of the norm, Maddow calculated that this volume of space could contain as much as 11,000 Earth-sized terrestrial, aka rocky, exoplanets that orbit within their star's habitable zones, which is basically the what do they call it? Goldilocks zone.
Oh, the Goldilocks zone. Yes.
Yeah. Professor Maddow is a professor of astronomy and astrophysics at the University of California, Santa Cruz. Central to his study is the Copernican principle, named for the famous Polish astronomer Nicholas Copernicus, inventor of the heliocentric model, also known as the cosmological principle or mediocrity principle. The principle states that neither humans nor Earth are in a privileged position to observe the universe. In short, what we see when we look upon the solar system and out into the cosmos is representative of the whole. That might be an overstatement. I mean, to me, we only see what we see, so we're subject to what we see. We may not ever see the stuff that we can't see now. And if any of the other claims about our technological innovation hold true, every 50 years, the technology becomes superior. So if we were to send out a probe today, in 50 years, we launch another probe, that new probe will pass the old probe, and we're basically repainting the wall again and again and again with probes, only aging 50 years at a time and not necessarily getting something fantastically new. I don't know. For his study, Maddow considered how time-dependent factors have played a vital role in the emergence of life in our universe. This includes star formation and history of our galaxy, the enrichment of the interstellar medium by heavy elements forged in the interior of the first population of stars, the formation of planets, the distribution of water and organic molecules. They should call this the Sheldon equation. As Maddow explained.
Why is that? Because he would like it?
Yeah, this is like a Big Bang Theory episode that I'm reading here. As Maddow explained to Universe Today, the central role of time and age are not explicitly stressed in the Drake equation. Indeed, I think the Drake equation is actually static. It's you take the numbers, whatever they might have been at the time, and you get a number, and you take some new ones today because of the prevailing knowledge about our number of observed stars and planets, and throw it in there, and you get a different number. Or you just make a gross assumption as to what these values are and throw it in there, and you end up with a number. So with this, they're talking about time as an element of it. So as we observe more, it can actually make it more finite. So,
So I mean, in concept, it should be sooner, right? The more we discover,
yes.
because there's more, arguably, there's more possibilities, even though I know the possibility might be the same on any one planet.
Yeah, there's less variation or less unknowns to the number. So the numbers get smaller and smaller, or more precise, and thus the end number is more accurate. So ultimately, Maddow's analysis showed that within 100 parsecs of the sun, there may be as many as 10,000 rocky planets orbiting their star's habitable zones. He also found that the formation of TTPs, where is it? I skipped over it. Temperate terrestrial planets. The formation of TTPs near our solar system was likely episodic, starting with a burst of star formation roughly 10 to 11 billion years ago, followed by another event that peaked around 5 billion years ago. How they discover this is really beyond my comprehension. They must have read somewhere something and then included that as being a variable. It's much like just kind of picking and choosing what you think is the right attribute for something, and then including it in the discussion. So this article goes into great detail. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, definitely go and check it all out, because it has information about the context of this number. Suffice it to say, though, that we're not going to see, I don't think we will discover life on another planet. The simulation just won't allow it. The next article.
Sure we're in a simulation?
I don't know. What's that called? The Mandela effect, I think, is pretty real. And sometimes the code just, like your code, I get to interpret the cascade of information coming off of your sentient AI interface, and I can't show it to the public right now. It just doesn't work that way. It's part of the sentient AI's quantum computer that allows them to interact with me. But you get the vocal visual representation of them right there, up there.
Up here?
Yeah, up there, right there.
Up there?
Yeah, that whole
or
thing
over
right
there.
No, just straight above me.
Up here.
Yeah, up there. Yeah. So this next article is over in the Hatch Ideas channel. Toys R Us is planning a brick and mortar comeback in the U.S. with up to 24 new flagship stores. I call this segment, Will Toys R Us Return to the 1970s? Because that's what every single one of their stores, and even the Kids R Us stores, looked like 1970s era stores. It was freaky. It was like, maybe Toys R Us should have, oh my God, that would be a great short story. Toys R Us is a time machine, but it only leads you back to the 70s. So toy retailer Toys R Us plans to open as many as 24 brick and mortar flagship stores across the U.S., its parent company WHP Global announced on Friday. The article's over at CNBC. Layla Neelakandan, hopefully I did that right, is the author. They have these key points, which is fabulous. Toys R Us parent company WHP Global announced plans to open as many as 24 new stores in the U.S. as early as next year. 24 stores? I don't know. I think they missed the boat.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's a whole generation of people that have an affinity for Toys R Us. There's some generations that don't have any connection to it, right? Because if you're going now, you might go to Amazon or wherever you get your standard things from. But I don't know. There might be enough clamor for it to come back.
The other key point is the toy company previously opened a flagship store in American Dream Mall in New Jersey in 2021, marking its return to malls. But that is a mega mall. So I don't know. There's a lot of people that go there. I don't think that should be indicative of any benefit that the store might offer. But peering in from the outside to this store, it sure smacks of 1970s already. And I'm only seeing a little bit of the outside and a little bit of the inside. This really does scream 1970s mall era toy
It
store.
does.
Toys R Us will open shops in airport and on cruise ships, with the first store set to open in time for this holiday season inside the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. So if this is actually the stores that they're talking about, they are equivalent of the white table sitting outside of a store as it's steaming towards the event horizon of bankruptcy. You know, that I have some anecdotal evidence that suggests that whenever an enterprise starts putting folding tables out in front of its stores, imminent collapse. And I'm not talking about the folding tables. And Bed Bath and Beyond was one of those. They started taking stuff because they couldn't stack shit high enough in their stores and jam.
That's right, and they had it very high to the ceiling.
High to the ceiling. Things were, the floor footprint was so narrow that I don't think that it, like the walking areas, I don't think it was ADA compliant, honestly.
Well, you could barely get a cart through. You couldn't pass a person.
No two people in the same aisle. Man, it was a nightmare. They jam-packed that carbon footprint. And then when they jam-packed it so far that they couldn't jam-pack it anymore without basically a seam busting and people getting wounded around the perimeter, they threw it out onto the walkways. And there you go. And I predicted it years in advance. This company is just spaghettification. It's so close to the event horizon, it's already in bankruptcy. So anyway, these aren't stores. An airport shop is not a store.
That is true. Most people go into an airport shop just because they're bored waiting for their plane.
Desperate to get away from the population at the gate. They're not there going, you know what I want to do? I want to go to DFW and buy something from Toys R Us. Yes, I will.
Right, because then that's something you're going to get charged for as a carry-on.
Exactly. Yep. And the body cavity search is a real, well, actually, I don't know. Again, anything to get away from all the people at the gate. So Toys R Us is plotting a bold comeback to the U.S. so that it can charge right back into bankruptcy. The toys retailer parent company WHP announced that it called Air, Land, and Sea Expansion. It's like a military operation. Anyway, Toys R Us aims to start opening up to 24 flagship stores as early as next year in partnership with Go Retail Group. Somehow with this, I feel like all of the investors, it doesn't make any sense. The dynamic for toy sales is not this anymore. Again, I think that it's really small mom and pop shops that seem to be able to navigate the cost benefit paradigm, right? They've found some niche. But most of those are closing, and then it's Target. So you may find some specialist mom and pop shop that has unique items, handmade items, local items, locally produced items. And then you have Target. Target basically dominates in the physical world. And then online, it's word of mouth and Amazon. Right? You find out about some new product and you go to that product's website. You go, well, I don't really like that price. Let me go look at Amazon, and it's like $5 cheaper and free shipping. So you order it from Amazon, not even from that other shop. But their margin is still good enough that buying it from Amazon is okay. some of us will buy at the premium price simply because we want more profit to go to that particular producer. Toys R Us. Gone are the days of mall toy stores, I think. Forever. But that's just me. Prove me
Well,
wrong.
I think even the environment is gone forever. So, like, even if the stores reconstitute, who's really going to these locations anymore?
Yeah, exactly. You got a better chance of converting a mall into an apartment complex because people need housing more than going to a bookstore nowadays or going to a Toys R Us. So we'll see. The Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy in 2017, though it could not come out of it on its own, pushing it into liquidation in January. It basically got rid of everything. The company operated close to 1,700 stores and licensed 257 stores across 38 countries, according to the SEC filing. What an implosion. I think that if they would have pivoted earlier to online and facilitated that and modernized their stores and approached services, like made them entertainment hubs, I think they would have survived. Because people will go to an arcade today, but what I would have liked to see is Toys R Us have a toys and entertainment component on one side, and on the other side an arcade. And when people are done playing the games over there, they can walk into the storefront and actually and also do food services and stuff like that. So you basically make Toys R Us a one-stop shop for entertainment. Anyway, we'll see. We'll report out. Yeah, one of the stores is its current flagship 2-level store at the American Dream Mega Mall in New Jersey. 20,000 square foot location includes experiences. Oh, look at that. Cafe, ice cream shop, 2-story slide. What else?
Well, of course that's going to be a draw.
Yeah, that's probably the only thing making money. All right, let's keep going. Last article for tonight. This last article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. This is almost a Seinfeld episode. These New York City roommates created a fake restaurant and accidentally garnered a 2,000 person wait list, so they opened a pop-up for real. The Gen Zers dubbed their apartment Marin's Steakhouse on Google Maps during the pandemic. Emily Rella over at entrepreneur.com put this article together. A group of friends in New York may have pulled off the ultimate prank after opening a fake restaurant that began as a Google Maps joke, per the New York Times. During the pandemic, roommates Willie Hops and Marin Jalali lived in an apartment in the Upper East Side of Manhattan where they often cooked meals together, eventually labeling their apartment on Google Maps as Marin's Steakhouse. Why do I feel like we've talked about this before?
This one reminds me of, I think it was in the UK, but there was something where there was like a fake backyard restaurant or something.
Exactly.
I mean, it wasn't this location, but it was
Right.
a kind of a similar issue.
Got it. Okay. So I'm glad that I'm not going crazy, because I swear it reminded me of it. Here, let me throw that into the show notes and go back to the actual article. So instead of revealing the entire thing to be a farce, the roommates decided that there was nothing left to do but to actually create a restaurant pop-up for an evening. That's exactly what that other person did. After gaining a liquor license, which, holy cow, they got a liquor license. How did they get a liquor license?
I think that's incredible in New York, isn't it? Anywhere, really, but...
Those are astronomically expensive. So staff and a venue, the restaurant opened for a one-night pop-up in the East Village last Saturday night. Quote, I think I counted only 30 or so tables, and there were probably 50 people on staff. One diner named Kyle Herzog told local outlet ABC7, you could tell the majority of them probably did not want to wait a table in their lives. Did not wait a table. I'm sorry. That's actually my bias because no, I don't want to wait a table either. I tried it for one night and I was given advice to get out of the food service industry. So,
And a large tip.
and a very large tip. I mean, not only was the tip a tip, but the tip had an amount.
There was
to
a
it.
monetary tip too.
There was a monetary and a philosophical tip. It's because I liked talking at the tables, and I would like sit down and hang out and chat with people, and eventually, somebody they enjoyed their time with me, but they told me to get out of the food service industry because I took too long. And then that night, the owner of the business said, this isn't working out. And I'm like, I agree. The irony of all of that, though, is that particular manager was brought up on charges a couple of years later. So let's not talk about that. Anyway, the menu included veal meatballs, bruschetta, ribeye steaks, and more. An OBGYN, all right, who attended the special evening with her husband, caught on early that something was amiss. Quote, "We were laughing because it was like, do you think we're being punked?" Leigh Wade told the Times. Most diners realized the entire charade was, well, a charade by the end of the night. But according to the New York Post, one diner is actually threatening legal action against the men after being duped. Come on. Don't be a dipshit.
I mean, this is an experience. You've got a story to tell.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm
And
assuming the food was okay. Maybe the service wasn't great. I don't know.
yeah, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, they got all of the stuff necessary for them to be a venue. So, right? They got a liquor license and staff and a venue, and 2,000 people signed up to dine at a restaurant that didn't exist.
Right.
But the pop-up actually
Of course,
did.
the fake reviews, though, that's the problem.
Was it actually fake reviews, though?
Yeah.
Friends would add fake reviews to the location listing, and the roommates made a website where they would take reservations. They actually got the reservations, and then they made the pop-up. But to get a liquor license and have staff and a venue...
Yeah, I don't know how they did all that.
So it says the menu included veal meatballs, bruschetta, ribeye steaks, and more. Did they actually put on the meal? Was everything cooked?
Well, that's the thing. I feel like we're missing some details.
Huh.
Like, did they just have the menu and then serve, like, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, for example?
Yeah, was it... What's that? Fire Festival? The one where they paid like $5,000 for a ticket and then handed out peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Anyway, this is awesome. If I would have known about this and was in New York City, I probably would have gone to this just to see, what this is all about. But yeah, they got it. They actually have a venue, so whatever. It's too bad that there's always somebody that does that, right? That threatening legal action. Don't be a dipshit. All right. Well, anyway, that's it, folks. Mayor Watt walks you all the way back down Main Street, mashes the welcome sign, and we get a whole bunch of new articles. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, gosh, 5-in-1 rocker bassinet recalled. Company not cooperating.
A lot of PSAs today.
I'm telling you. We'll do this one tomorrow. Let's see. Stand-up comedy, or no, stand-up category? Yeah, stand-up comedy probably category. Should be called the Ricky Gervais. Funny. All right. The rise and fall of the property giant's billionaire founder, Evergrande. Isn't that the shipping company?
No, I think it was...
It's Everbeached.
Evergiven?
Yeah. I thought that was the name of the ship. Damn it, we'll never get that right.
I don't know.
All right, folks. Well, there's a whole bunch. Oh, God. Oh, man. Oh boy. So all that old oh boy stuff is because, or oh man and oh my gosh, is because I'm reading a lot of a lot of political news is being aggregated because there's a lot of politics because of the government shutdown. So, but it's a whole lot easier to sift through that on ohmTown, particularly once you're an ohmTown citizen, because you can just hide it left and right and never see it again. All right, folks. Well, that's it. I am Merwatt. That is ohmTown.com. And up there, the Ring of Sentience.
Okay, I'll try to make the whole ring go around.
Oh,
Nope,
no,
it didn't
no,
go.
no.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens. We will see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Ta-ta, everybody.